You know, we use them every single day and probably never give them a second thought. But what happens when a simple, humble door hinge starts to fail? Yeah, that annoying squeak, that's just the beginning. The science behind fixing it for good is honestly way more fascinating than you might think. Today, we're going to take a rusty old hinge and give it a full-on, high-tech makeover, turning it into a silent, super durable piece of modern engineering.
Okay, so here's our patient for today. A standard, mild steel door hinge. Yeah, not a pretty sight, is it? We've all seen this. It looks old, worn out, and I swear I can almost hear that awful grating sound just by looking at it. So let's get specific. What are the actual telltale signs of failure here?
The diagnosis is pretty straightforward. First off, you've got that classic red-brown rust. See it? Especially right around the pin, where moisture loves to collect. Then, the paint is chipping and peeling off, which exposes the vulnerable metal underneath. And if you were to actually try and move this thing, you'd feel this gritty, rough resistance. And of course, the star of the show, that unmistakable nails-on-a-chalkboard squeak. Yeah, this hinge is the perfect candidate for a serious upgrade.
So, how do we fix it? Well, we're not just going to slap some oil on it and call it a day. Nope. We're giving it a complete high-tech makeover using something called Electroless Nickel Phosphorus coating. I know, it sounds super complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. We're basically going to give this old hinge its own suit of liquid armor.
So what is this stuff exactly? Well, Electroless Nickel Phosphorus, or NiP coating for short, is a chemical process that puts down a perfectly even layer of a nickel alloy onto a metal part. Now the key word here, the magic word, is electroless. Unlike traditional electroplating, this whole process doesn't need any electricity. It's a purely chemical reaction, and that one little difference, well, it's a complete game changer.
And you know, calling it liquid armor really isn't an exaggeration. This coating has some genuine superpowers that make it the perfect hero for our rusty old hinge. It literally addresses every single one of the problems we just diagnosed, and then some. So let's break down what those powers are.
Okay, so there are 4 huge advantages. First, it's a powerful corrosion shield. That rust we saw, it stops it dead in its tracks. Second, it gives the hinge incredible wear resistance, making it way tougher against the daily grind of opening and closing. Third, that super smooth surface drastically reduces friction, so goodbye squeak. And finally, it leaves this sleek, modern finish that just looks great and resists tarnishing.
And this slide right here perfectly illustrates that key advantage I was talking about. See, traditional electroplating, which uses an electric current, really struggles to coat things evenly. You get buildup on the edges, and it completely misses the inside of holes and crevices. But Electroless NiP, it's like dipping the hinge in a vat of paint. That chemical bath makes sure that every single surface, even deep inside the pin bore, gets a perfectly uniform coating. For a precise part like a hinge, that is absolutely essential.
So let's talk about toughness. Just how tough are we talking? After an optional heat treatment, this NiP coating can reach a hardness of 1,000 on the Vickers scale. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that is getting close to the hardness of tool steel. We are literally turning a simple piece of mild steel into a high-performance, wear-resistant component. It's incredible.
All right, so how does this amazing transformation actually happen? Let's walk through the process that takes our rusty, squeaky hinge and turns it into something sleek, silent, and incredibly durable. It's a multi-step journey, and it requires some serious precision at every single stage. It all starts with the prep work, which has to be perfect. First, you strip off all the old paint and polish away every last bit of rust. Then, you degrease it in an alkaline cleaner to get rid of any oils or grime. Step 3 is a quick dip in some mild acid. This just activates the steel surface so the coating will stick properly. And then comes the magic. The hinge is submerged in a heated NiPig bath, and the coating literally grows on the surface. Finally, it can be heat treated to get that maximum hardness we were just talking about.
And the end result of that whole 5-step process is a total transformation. I mean, you're taking something that was probably destined for the scrap heap and turning it into a part that looks and performs even better than when it was new. From rusty and rough to sleek and smooth, all thanks to a little bit of applied chemistry.
Okay, so this is all really cool, but let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. This technology is super impressive, but like any industrial process, it comes with benefits that go beyond just the hinge itself, and, of course, some important fine print that we need to talk about to get a balanced view.
So on the plus side, this process is pretty great for sustainability. By extending the life of the hinge, it cuts down on metal waste, which is awesome. And because it's an auto-catalytic process, remember, it doesn't need electricity, its energy use is really low. And maybe most importantly, it's much, much safer than alternatives like hard chrome plating, which involve some seriously toxic chemicals.
But, there are always trade-offs. Some people have skin allergies to nickel, so that's a consideration. The spent chemical baths, they contain nickel salts that have to be disposed of very carefully. And, like we saw in the process steps, if that surface prep isn't absolutely perfect, the coating can just fail. So the takeaway, it's a powerful tool, for sure, but it requires precision and a lot of responsibility.
After weighing all the pros and cons, all the science and the practical steps, it really boils down to one fundamental engineering challenge. When you're dealing with a moving part like this, what is the single trickiest part of getting this coating just right?
And this quote from the source material, it just sums it up perfectly. The hardest part isn't just adding a protective layer, it's about adding the exact right amount. If you go too thin, you're not going to get the corrosion protection you need. But if you go just a few micrometers too thick, the hinge won't fit back together or move freely anymore. It's this incredibly delicate balancing act between durability and function. And that, right there, is the true art and science behind the silent door hinge.